Choosing the right vehicle for towing can feel like navigating a minefield of specifications and numbers. You might be planning to haul a caravan for a family holiday, transport a boat to the lake, or move heavy equipment for a job. In each case, the ability of your vehicle to pull that weight safely and efficiently is paramount. Many people get caught up in the classic debate, what matters more, torque or horsepower? These two terms are often used interchangeably, but they represent very different aspects of an engine's performance. Understanding the fundamental difference between them is the first crucial step in selecting a vehicle that won't let you down when you attach a heavy load to its tow hitch. So, let's start with torque. Imagine you are trying to loosen a very tight nut with a spanner. Torque is the twisting force you apply to that spanner. If you use a short spanner, you have to push incredibly hard. But if you use a longer spanner, the same amount of effort from you results in a much greater twisting force on the nut, making it easier to turn. In an engine, torque is this initial twisting force that the crankshaft generates. It's the raw, instantaneous muscle that gets things moving from a standstill. It is the force responsible for turning the wheels and overcoming inertia, which is especially important when a heavy trailer is attached. On the other hand, we have horsepower. Horsepower is not a measure of force, but a measure of the rate at which work is done. It is calculated from torque and engine speed, or RPM. To return to our spanner example, torque is the force you apply to turn the nut. Horsepower would be how quickly you can spin that nut once it's loose. A simple way to think about it is that torque gets the job done, while horsepower determines how fast you can get it done. An engine can produce a lot of torque, but if it does so at very low speeds, it won't have high horsepower. Conversely, an engine can have high horsepower by producing a moderate amount of torque at very high engine speeds. Therefore, the relationship between these two metrics is what defines an engine's character. Torque is the grunt, the initial shove that gets a heavy object moving. Horsepower is the ability to keep that object moving at speed. One without the other tells only half the story. When we look at a vehicle's specifications, we see peak torque at a certain RPM, and peak horsepower at another, usually higher RPM. For towing, the key is understanding how each of these contributes to the task at hand, from pulling away at a traffic light on a steep hill to maintaining speed on a long motorway incline. The interplay is what makes an engine suitable or unsuitable for heavy-duty work. When you're towing, the most challenging moment is often the very beginning, getting the combined mass of your vehicle and trailer to start moving. This is where torque truly shines and demonstrates its importance. A high-torque engine provides a powerful rotational force to the wheels, right from low engine speeds. Think of it as a strong person giving a heavy merry-go-round a mighty shove to get it started. Without that initial powerful push, the merry-go-round would barely budge. Similarly, a vehicle with low torque would struggle immensely to pull a heavy caravan from a complete stop, especially if it's on an incline. The engine would have to rev very high, straining components, and potentially overheating. This is precisely why vehicles designed for towing, such as large pickup trucks and SUVs, are often engineered with engines that produce a substantial amount of torque, particularly at the lower end of the rev range. Diesel engines are famously good at this. They are built to generate their peak torque at as little as 1,500 to 2,000 RPM. This characteristic means the driver doesn't need to thrash the engine to get moving. A gentle press of the accelerator provides immediate and effective pulling power, making the whole experience feel effortless and controlled. It reduces wear and tear on the clutch, transmission, and the engine itself, contributing to the vehicle's long-term reliability under stressful conditions. Let's consider a practical scenario. You are stopped at a traffic light at the bottom of a steep hill, with a 3-ton caravan hitched to your vehicle. When the light turns green, you need immediate force to overcome gravity and the inertia of the heavy load. An engine with high low-end torque will allow the vehicle to pull away smoothly and confidently. The driver can apply minimal throttle, and the engine, operating in its comfort zone, will deliver the necessary twisting force to the wheels. There's no dramatic revving, no clutch slipping, just a calm and composed start. This is the hallmark of a great towing vehicle. In contrast, a vehicle with low torque, like a small petrol-powered sports car, would be a poor choice for this task. To get moving, the driver would need to rev the engine to a very high RPM to access what little torque it has, and then carefully slip the clutch to avoid stalling. This process generates a lot of heat and puts immense strain on the drivetrain. The car might eventually get moving, but the process would be stressful, jerky, and damaging to the vehicle's mechanics. It clearly illustrates that for the initial crucial phase of pulling a heavy load, abundant and accessible torque is not just helpful, it is absolutely essential for a smooth, safe, and mechanically sympathetic start. While torque is the undisputed champion of getting a heavy load moving, its role becomes less dominant once you are up to speed. This is where horsepower enters the picture and proves its worth. As we established, horsepower is the rate at which an engine does work. For towing, this translates to the vehicle's ability to maintain its speed, especially when facing resistance like wind or a long, steady incline on the motorway. If torque gets you going, horsepower is what keeps you going. A vehicle with high torque but very low horsepower might be able to pull a house off its foundations, but it would do so at an incredibly slow pace. Imagine you are towing your caravan on the motorway at 60 miles per hour. The engine is working to overcome aerodynamic drag and rolling resistance. Now, you approach a long, gradual hill. To maintain your speed, the engine needs to produce enough power to counteract the additional force of gravity. This is a job for horsepower. An engine with a healthy horsepower figure will be able to sustain the necessary work rate to keep the vehicle and trailer moving at a consistent speed, without the driver needing to constantly shift down gears and push the engine to its limits. It makes the journey more relaxed and fuel efficient. Consider two trucks, both towing identical, heavy loads. Truck A has very high torque, but low horsepower. Truck B has slightly less peak torque, but significantly more horsepower. Truck A will be a master at pulling away from a standstill. However, on the motorway, it will struggle to get above 50 miles per hour and will slow down significantly on any incline. Truck B, on the other hand, might be a fraction slower off the line, but it will comfortably cruise at 60 miles per hour and will be able to maintain that speed up the hills with much less effort. This demonstrates that horsepower is crucial for real-world towing usability and for making progress on long journeys. Therefore, horsepower is far from irrelevant in the towing debate. It provides the stamina and the high-speed capability that torque alone cannot deliver. A vehicle with a good balance of both is the ideal scenario. The torque provides the muscle for low-speed maneuvers and starts, while the horsepower provides the endurance for high-speed cruising and hill climbing. Neglecting horsepower would result in a towing experience that is frustratingly slow and impractical for anything other than short, low-speed journeys. It is the combination of the two that creates a truly competent and versatile towing machine. So, we return to the fundamental question: for towing, is torque or horsepower more important? After examining their distinct roles, the answer becomes clear. While both are necessary for a good overall towing experience, torque is undoubtedly the more critical of the two. The greatest challenges in towing, getting started, low-speed maneuvering, and pulling up steep, slow inclines, are all tasks that fall squarely in the domain of torque. Without sufficient torque, a vehicle simply cannot perform the fundamental job of pulling a heavy load effectively and safely from a standstill. It is the foundation upon which all other towing capabilities are built. A vehicle's ability to generate strong torque at low engine revolutions is the single most important factor for a tow vehicle. This is what prevents engine strain, reduces wear on the transmission, and gives the driver a sense of confidence and control. You can have all the horsepower in the world, but if you have to rev the engine to 6,000 RPM to access it, it is virtually useless when trying to delicately reverse a heavy trailer into a tight spot or pull a boat out of the water on a slippery ramp. In these common towing scenarios, it is the immediate, controllable, twisting force of torque that does the real work and ensures success. Horsepower, while important for maintaining speed on open roads, can be seen as a secondary luxury. A vehicle with immense torque but modest horsepower will still be a very capable, if slow, towing machine. It will always get the job done, albeit at a leisurely pace. Conversely, a vehicle with high horsepower but poor low-end torque will be a frustrating and often incapable towing partner. It will struggle with the most basic requirement of setting the load in motion, making it fundamentally flawed for the task. The hierarchy is clear, Bursan. You must first be able to pull the weight before you can worry about how fast you can pull it. In conclusion, when you are looking for a vehicle to pull a heavy load, your primary focus should be on its torque figures, especially the engine speed at which that peak torque is produced. Lower is better. While a good horsepower rating will certainly make for a more pleasant and faster journey on the motorway, it is the grunt and shove of torque that will determine whether the vehicle can handle the core challenge of towing in the first place. For pulling power, torque is the undisputed king. It is the muscle that gets the work done, making it the most important metric in the towing debate.